Okay, components of a house with a focus on maintenance and understanding upkeep. This is part 2. So we're going to jump into plumbing. There's 2 types of pipes that are running through your house. The supply lines bring water, typically from the city lines, and then the drain lines take waste out of the house and into the city sewer. There's other types of, we'll skip that. That's most houses. All right, now, so these are supply lines right here. They're running all over the house. They're bringing water to the water heater. They're taking it to the faucets, the showers, all in the walls generally. If you have a basement, the pipes are running underneath through the basement, kind of like this is. This would be looking up from the basement. All right, now the drain lines are going to be run something like this. So you got a toilet, you flush, it runs down here, goes into this stack here, and then into this underground system which then runs out to the city. So the city sewer line is out at the street, way out there. Now, just so you know what you're working with, if something goes wrong with the plumbing, there's generally 2 accepted types of plumbing lines. These are called PEX, P-E-X. It's a slightly flexible plastic product. And then kind of the industry standard for years has been copper. And this is what copper pipes look like. It's that brown right there. That's a metal, of course, but eventually they do get kind of old and break. But they'll last 80 years, probably more. Now for drain lines, this photo kind of says it all. So this plastic over here, this is what we want to see, and this is the industry standard. PVCs, drain lines everywhere. Everywhere. This is cast iron right here. It's old. This is more like 1920s, 30s. Generally, this means it's on its way out. If you see this, it's limited. And then this gray silver right here is probably a galvanized, or that might even be a lead pipe. So all that is junk. I mean, it can still work. It's just letting water run through it on its way out of the house. But eventually it'll crack and leak, and then you need these boots to connect it to the new stuff. And yeah. All right, so gearing this info more towards maintenance here, there's a difference between the 2 systems. The supply lines are pressurized with water, right? It's coming from the city. It's pushing water through. So if there's a crack or a gasket leaks or whatever, the water is going to keep coming and keep pushing water through that leak. So that's more serious. If you have a supply line leak somewhere in the house, it's going to keep coming out and it's going to damage what's around it. It'll soak into the wood. Water generally is pretty damaging to everything in a house, so it's just a matter of time. If you catch it in a few days or a week, you're probably okay and you can just replace the broken pipe. But any more than that, you might be starting to rip out some stuff of the house to replace it and fix it and make it new. Now the drain lines, not so much. All they have to do is just slope towards and take gravity with them all the way out of the house, so not much to those. Now this comes up a lot in maintenance calls from tenants. This is called a P-trap because you can kind of see it's shaped like a P. If you look at it, this is the stem of the P, and then this is the top of the P right here. That traps gases, keeps them from coming out, but sometimes these are not plumbed correctly. This is under any kind of sink. It's even under bathtubs and toilets. It's pretty much under every fixture because water will always be cradled here, and then that keeps sewer gases from backing up the pipe. So you need that P-trap for the gases. Well, it's often just like plumbed weird. Like this one here kind of looks like from the angle. Imagine water coming down from the sink. From this photo, it kind of looks like this slope is back towards where the water comes from. So it's going to have to fill up with water before there's enough water to finally push over this hump and then go out. So this pipe needs to be sloped more like this, going down like that. So you'll see P-traps like that, issues like that. What you don't want to see is this bull crap right here. This is not a P-trap. This is a handyman of mine did this, and he just had no idea. And you just don't want to see that. You want to see this strong PVC pipe under there. If you schedule a plumber to do a repair and he sends a photo and says he's done, it looks like that, we're not paying for that. All right, so that's a lot on plumbing, but honestly, most of home maintenance, well, an outsized portion of home maintenance is probably plumbing related. Okay, electrical. Obviously also a very serious and important component of a home. Power flows from the city through big heavy wires into what's called a service panel, and that can look like any of these. Well, not that, that's a meter, but this top row here, these are all panels. So power flows into there, then see all these wires shooting out the top. That is the power going out to all the different receptacles and lights and running the house from there. A couple brief things to know about how the electrical system works. This is full of breakers, and each breaker services a portion of the house. So if you flip off this section, it'll turn off power to the septic. If you turn off, this one, it'll turn off power to the jacuzzi. So you flip these breakers left and right to power, and everything goes through that. Sometimes if something's not working, it's just because this breaker was tripped, and you'll see one of these knobs like just slightly off, more in the middle. And that means that something happened electrically that caused the breaker to flip over, and that will kill power to that whole circuit. So maybe a whole side of a room, or a whole room even, doesn't get light or power to the outlets. So you can just flip the breaker off and then back on, and it will work again. Usually if this happens a lot, it means there's something wrong with the wiring. Call out an electrician to fix it. Honestly, electrical issues are pretty rare. If something goes wrong, it could be if they had a pest issue recently and something doesn't work, the pest may have chewed through the wires. Otherwise, surprisingly, just like a light switch, the internal components of that switch can go bad. So you might flip it on and the light doesn't come on, and just replacing that 69-cent switch is all you need. Same with outlets where you plug things into. Those can just go bad. Other than that, it can get a little more complicated, and somebody's got to take a look at it. I got to tell you one more thing about electrical. This is called a GFI outlet, and also GCFI. And at some point, codes required these in rooms that are wet, like bathrooms and kitchens where there's sinks and running water, that sort of thing. It provides a different additional protection from electric shock. But what can happen is if something causes this little outlet to sense that there's water causing potential risk or harm, it'll switch off, and then all the outlets downstream from it will also switch off. So it'll kill power to that circuit. So if you're using a hairdryer, one circuit down, and then all of a sudden there's no power, sometimes it's as simple as pushing the button on this thing. I think either the red or black button, it'll say on the outlet, will say reset. And you push that in, and then it'll open up the circuit again, and then when you thought there was no power, power's back. So that's somewhat common too. So the last of the mechanicals, we'll call them, is HVAC. So it's often called MEP for the three mechanicals. You got mechanical, then the E is for electrical, and then the P, of course, is for plumbing. So MEP, that's your mechanicals. This photo is actually fantastic. This is how the system works. Basically, it'll blow air. In most houses throughout the house, it's called a central system. Blow air that is conditioned to whatever we want the temp to be. And sometimes houses will have air unit or window units, which is of course much simpler. Generally, there's really not much to know about this. I mean, you can learn about all the technicalities of it, but as far as just upkeep of a home, if it's not blowing air very strong, that is one type of issue. Or if the air coming out is not the temperature you think it should be, like it's AC in the summer and it's not coming out all that cold, if any kind of complaints like that come in from tenants or where you live, that is likely just a call to the HVAC guy. And there's a few basic things they usually do. It's not rocket science, but there's just nothing really much to know about that. Just call the HVAC guy. I will say with these repairs though, speaking of repairmen, what really can sneak up on you is these guys will go out and say, yep, we can fix it for $600 and you'll have heat today. And it's 20 degrees outside and you're like, okay, sounds good. So you pay the $600, then you think about it and realize, wow, I could have just had a whole new system for, $4,000 more dollars. So next time, I generally say anything under $300, go ahead and just fix it and get the unit running again. But if it's more than $300, don't do it. Just replace the unit, because you're throwing good money after bad most of the time. All right, part 3. Yeah, we're going to cut it there again. I think that covered a lot of ground, so we'll come out with a part 3 here shortly.